The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, episode 99.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Make it so. Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the Next Generation episode, The Last Outpost. And joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hi, Father Cory.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. And Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, remember to like The Secrets of Star Trek on Facebook, where we're facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can follow us on Twitter at SQPN, and be sure to leave us comments online. We love to hear from you, and we'd love to include them in future episodes. So we're talking about this episode called The Last Outpost, aired from the first season of The Next Generation, and aired in October of 1987. And there's a funny story about this script that I just want to start off with, about how it was created or the process by which it came to screen. Just as the final draft was being finished by writer Herb Wright, he caught Gene Roddenberry's infamous attorney,
Leonard Maizlish,
making changes to it for the typist. Like, as she's retyping it for eventual dissemination to the staff, Maizlish is making changes. They catch him at it. And when confronted, he claimed, Gene and Rick Berman requested the changes, which was impossible because literally no one else had seen it yet. He had, the writer, Herb Wright, had just given it to the secretary. So it turns out Maizlish was hated by many people on the staff and seen as a constant tamperer into things that were none of his business. He's not a writer, and yet he's changing the script.
Oh, boy.
Apparently he's a fan, I guess. I wonder, did his changes make it into the final airing, or could he have improved this script before it aired?
Oh, boy. Well, you remember when the Ferengi were considered a feared and unknown race?
Yes.
Yeah, that lasted about 5 minutes into this episode.
Yeah, they were
Right.
supposed to be the new Klingons.
Right. And
Instead, they became the new comic relief.
They did, which is, I think, entirely due to this episode. One of the producers actually thought this was a great Ferengi episode. He thought that the Ferengi turned out awesome in this. I'm not sure his
They
judgment.
look literally like rats. I mean, just their movements and everything.
Or simian. They're very
weasels,
monkey-like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very weird and creepy. So
Now there was one Ferengi in here that might look familiar.
which one? The
Armin Shimmerman,
was,
also known as Quark.
So which one did Armin Shimmerman play?
He was one
Was
of
he one
he
who was on
wasn't-
the surface, or the
He
one
was
on
like
the...
the
he's
second.
on the
He was like the
surface.
second command. He was like the second in command.
Oh,
I forgot to write down his name.
did not even recognize. They must have changed the makeup in the interim.
Oh yeah, I mean he looks different. I mean you can tell it's him, and you can tell by his voice and everything. But he definitely looks different. He's got a different. It's not Quark. I mean, it's a different name.
Right, Litek. Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason why I realized he was in there is because he's actually credited in the opening. After the opening credits, guest stars they show as after the opening credits.
Yeah, I'm looking at a still from the episode now, and I'm thinking, yeah, that actually does look like Armin Shimmerman a bit. I can see the resemblance.
And you can hear it in his voice. You can, you can recognize his voice definitely.
My understanding is he was glad to get the role of Quark later because he felt that role was able to redeem what happened in this episode.
Yeah,
That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
So as we begin this episode, the Enterprise is in pursuit of this ship.
Yeah, because the Ferengis have stolen a MacGuffin, and so now we're chasing them into unexplored Sylvania.
Right, and just as a recollection, the Federation the Ferengi were unknown to the Federation. They'd never met them as far as they knew, although it turns out later on that Picard did meet them in the Stargazer. But they only know them through rumor, and they're supposed to be at the same level of technology as the Federation. So that's, the basis. And they end up in this solar system.
And if you don't know anything about them, how do you know they're at the same level of technology as you?
Right. Exactly. Well, I guess the rumors say they're at the same level.
Well, and they did say that had been encounters with Ferengi, but that there weren't anything that was like a major, trade or anything with them. It's just they had run into them one way or the other.
Yeah.
So since this is a first season episode, it has all that first season awkwardness and stilted dialogue, and wow, is it uncomfortable to watch.
And it's interesting to watch how, like, especially having, as we discussed this, we've just finished, the first season of Picard, where the characters are fully developed. And seeing how undeveloped the personalities of these characters are. Picard is sort of unsure. I don't think Patrick Stewart is comfortable in the role of Picard yet. Brent Spiner's still trying to figure out Data. It's very different.
Because eventually Picard develops into this great diplomat and everything. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know how I should handle this. What should I do?
Right. Staff meeting.
in particular, the diplomat thing is notably absent from this episode because at one point, and this is later on in the episode, the Ferengi are saying, well, we clearly own the MacGuffin because you put it on one of our planets. And instead of saying, aha, border dispute, diplomatic resolution opportunity, let's talk about this, Picard is totally dismissive, and it's like, oh, every civilized people knows that that's our planet. And it's like, okay, that's not the most diplomatic response, Mr. Super Diplomat.
Right.
Which, to be fair, he gets called on right away. Are you saying we're not civilized?
Yeah, exactly. So he really puts his foot in it. So the premise, let's set the premise, is that they end up in the solar system. Both ships are disabled. The Ferengi ship stops, fires on Enterprise. And the Enterprise systems go down too.
I love it how the Ferengi ship has clearly entered orbit around a planet. And then I think it's maybe Tasha announces they're slowing too. And it's like they're stationary in front of a planet. We just saw that. They've already slowed. They're not slowing.
Yeah.
And then the Enterprise has a brownout.
Yes. And then everyone gives their input, and Troy says she can't sense anything because this is basically Troy's function at this period in Next Generation is to sense things. But she can't sense anything, which may mean they can shield their thoughts and emotions. Well, it turns out later on that the Ferengi do not shield thoughts and emotions, as we'll see in later episodes from when Luxmana Troy shows up among the Ferengi. But Data has this weird interlude where he likens them to Yankee traders of yore, 18th and 19th century unscrupulous merchants and smugglers who ranged the American coast from my hometown of Boston and were known to be particularly shrewd and independent. Data says that they're the worst kind of capitalists. And then, okay, but then it gets really weird where he says, well, sir, I doubt they wear red, white, and blue or look anything like Uncle Sam. And then Worf doesn't recognize Uncle Sam. Tasha doesn't understand the reference to primary colors. And Picard goes on about how the U.S. uses red, white, and blue, while more properly, France uses blue, white, and red. And I'm like, what in the world does anything have to do with the fact that your ship is dying?
They should know the idea of having a organizational flag. After all, the Federation has one. The Klingons have one. The Romulans have one. I mean, they should already know this concept, even if it's not, stars and bars like we use.
Just really weird.
Also, it's interesting to see what their priorities in terms of critical systems during a brownout are.
Yeah.
It apparently includes room lighting because the lights don't dim at all. And we see the ships from the outside, and wow, those ships have full-on room lighting going on inside the windows.
Well, that 24th century LED lighting is really efficient.
Yeah, I guess
but the not on their list of critical systems you must reserve power for is the internal phone system, because when Picard tries to call engineering, he can't reach it.
Right. It is down. So he has to send the helmsman to engineering to fix things because
Geordi.
Yeah, we don't actually have a chief engineer at this point, apparently. And Geordi will eventually get the job. So they go to engineering. They come up with a plan to jump to warp
9 in 0.3 milliseconds.
They're going to put it in reverse very slowly and then jump forward. They're going to jumpstart the Enterprise, basically.
Well, of course, those of us who live in northern climes, we know this procedure. It's called rocking your car when you get stuck in a snowbank.
It's exactly what they're doing. They're rocking the car, and so
you
they're going to overwhelm the field.
You floor it forward, and you pull back, and you floor it forward, and eventually you come out, or you wreck your transmission. One of the two.
Yeah, and then we have more of this weird stilted dialogue where Geordi gives us a woo-ee.
Yeah,
and Riker yells, "Give me everything you got, Geordi," as he's walking out. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so awkward. It's so weird. Like, they get better at writing these guys as we go on. But gosh, when they try it, though, it doesn't work. And Picard drops a French scatological curse word on network TV. Well, not network TV, but cable TV, like basic cable. It was kind of surprising.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the word he said. I wasn't quite sure,
but
I was wondering if that was the word he said.
Oh,
it's the French word for manure.
Yes, he drops that right on. Which
Picard... makes me wonder how it was translated in France.
When they put the show... Well, in France, I gather they don't have a problem with some of the basic
That's true.
curse words on TV. But, yeah. Picard doesn't wave the French flag, so to speak, very often in the rest of the series. But they were really playing it up early here. Then someone starts reading the whole...
They only now, minutes into this crisis, think to open hailing frequencies and actually talk to the Ferengi.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All this time, but also they just assume it's all the Ferengi until it's Troy who tells them to check the planet. But has anyone decided to see what's going on the planet?
All people, it's like, hey, are we going to look below us? We've got this big thing called a planet below us. We might want to make sure there's not somebody down there causing this problem.
Right.
Which, and then spoiler, it was.
In the midst of this whole calamity, Picard goes, staff meeting in the conference room, and everybody on the bridge, all the senior officers leave the bridge to go stand in the room outside. Like, why can't you do this in the bridge? Like, why do you have to all go to the conference room?
Because we built the conference room set.
Yes.
And they have to show off that holographic display that they don't ever use again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, if this were a normal time, you could leave, a watch officer on the bridge and everybody wouldn't be needed.
Right.
But this is not a normal time. This is a crisis. So everyone is needed on the bridge. Also, they think it's the Ferengi at first, but someone has just hacked the Enterprise's computers and is downloading all their stuff. And then Picard, at the end of the conference room briefing, pulls out the suicide option really early in the episode of, if we can't deal with this, we're going to have to blow ourselves up. And it's like, guy, this is a little early. This is still the first act. We're not at suicide point yet.
Yeah, it's a little too quick.
And then he goes on to avoid suicide. He goes on and gets on the telephone with them and starts offering surrender terms to them.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, let's talk about this. You've got our MacGuffin. We want it back. What can we arrange? You're traitors, I understand. Maybe we can work out a deal.
And this is before they do things like checking out the planet. This is before they do things like launch the probe, which eventually does show that, this is coming from the planet. It's not actually the Ferengi.
Right. This is way early. Yep.
Yeah. But it so happens that he's phrased himself ambiguously enough. The Ferengi think he's asking for them to offer surrender terms. And they're in the same, it turns out they're in the same situation. And so they were both on the verge of mutually surrendering to each other.
I gotta say that Damon Tarr at this point sounds like Grover from Sesame Street. Like if you rewatch that scene, or if you watch the scene, he's like the Ferengi voices in this are very weird. And we also get this very giant head version on the screen. For some reason, when the Ferengi's on the screen, it's not like him standing on a bridge. He's standing in front of this white wall, lit thing, and it's just giant head.
And then they state the blatant obvious. They're using some kind of image manipulation for the view screen.
Right. So this is when we get the second staff meeting with just...
Actually, I don't know that I mind the weird framing of him on the view screen because they are another species, and they establish visual communication is not our custom, so you wouldn't expect them to have the same standards of cropping that humans do.
That's true.
Well, and I mean, again, with that line about how they're using the image manipulation, it's clear that they're trying to do it to intimidate.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Look at how big and intimidating we are.
So, although they have no idea how big the Enterprise's view screen is, right? I mean, it could be like 6 inches across. just a thought. Anyway, there's another staff meeting with just this time with Picard and Geordi and Data, I think, and and Riker, because as they go to the conference room. For some reason, there are a couple boys playing in there, and Riker has to shoo them out.
Just random, yeah.
How did they get in there without going through the bridge?
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a way to get to the staff room without going on the bridge.
There are two ways in to the conference room. One of them comes directly from the bridge. The other is from other corridors behind the bridge.
Okay. But in any case, like that, you'd think that top level of the ship would be restricted, maybe?
Yeah.
Well, they just threw that in for two reasons. First of all, to show again Picard's uncomfortable around children.
Yeah.
And then secondly, so Data could have his little toy.
Well, I figured later on that must have been what it was, because they get the toy in there.
Because then after they shoo the boys out, there's a Chinese finger puzzle that Data gets his fingers trapped in.
Which I have to say, that was amusing. That whole thing about Data getting trapped in the puzzle while he's trying to give a briefing was amusing.
I hate to say it, but Brent Spiner was the best actor in this entire episode. He really was. He played Data very well, especially with Data's early awkwardness and purposely designed that way.
Yep.
I think he was the best character of the whole bunch.
To quote the Emperor Cartagia, humor is so subjective. I didn't think it was funny, and in particular, watching Data struggle with the Chinese finger puzzle, when Picard orders him to get out of it, this guy could just rip it in half.
Yes.
And he's super strong. So that I thought it went on for too long and wasn't actually funny. Okay. By the way, by this point, they've sent out a probe now to find the source of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I like how the Ferengi initially offer to return the MacGuffin and take the lives of two of their second officers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Data remarks, it's a good thing we don't have the same custom here in Starfleet. So Data explains that this is part of the Takan Empire, this planet, which was existed 600,000 years ago. They were capable of moving stars, which is something we've heard about recently.
They're capable of moving stars, but they were wiped out when their central sun went supernova. There is so much wrong with that. If your central sun is about to go supernova, move that star. And how does one star going to supernova kill an empire?
Right.
Hot take, this entire episode was the inspiration of both, the 2009 Star Trek movie and Picard series.
Well,
moving
I was
stars and sun going supernova.
Yeah, moving stars, the admonition system from Star Trek Picard, maybe. Yeah.
This is the entire inspiration of all of it.
Yeah, maybe the Takan Empire was the one from Picard. Maybe was that. So anyway, he concludes that this planet may be their last outpost. Therefore,
we have a title.
We have a title. So there's a force field emanating from the surface, and so the Picard arranges with the Ferengi to beam down together to figure it out. The away team beams down, but everyone's separated. The Riker is separated from the others. He finds Data. Geordi materialized upside down with his foot caught in a cliff. Luckily, didn't materialize inside it.
And this is apparently just to stretch the runtime of the episode, having everyone beam down in this scrambled state.
Yeah, it was odd. Well, it also helps get Tasha separated from them so she can rescue the men.
Yep.
The Ferengi show up in furry vests with energy whips, which is very weird. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And they knock the three of them out.
I like the concept, and we later see the whips on Ferenginar in the Marauder Mo toy collection that Quark had as a boy. And I like the idea of the energy whips in one sense, in that it's different than a gun.
Yep.
But wow, is this ineffective?
Yeah.
I mean, they look pretty ridiculous, actually. And then how do you aim these things? You know, when it's not the physical whip that you're using, but it sends off this energy bolt.
Right.
I think it's kind of more of a range, or not a range, but an area of effect weapon where it spreads out on like a phaser, which is a point weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I agree.
Is the idea.
It's really pretty lame.
It's just a bad idea, but it's an idea.
I have to give props to Jonathan Frakes, who, when he gets stunned, takes a real face plant into the dirt. Like, he goes face down, no stopping it. His face hits that dirt pretty good. So good for him for taking one for the team on that one. So the way I would describe how the Ferengi act and move, it's like Gollum in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
All crouched down and finger pointy. They're very finger pointy when they talk.
I have it in my notes as spastic monkey mode and
spastic
with
monkeys,
lots of writhing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
So maybe a little Quasimodo thrown in there.
We do see kind of the fingernail attack that you'll see, once in a while the Ferengi on DS9 do, where they kind of hiss and
the hiss
bring up their nails like they're going to attack.
Yeah.
But
so their plan is to say that the Enterprise crew attack them first, and so the Starfleet crew fights back, but they're about to lose until Tasha saves the day. She shows up, and then the Ferengi display their misogyny by being disgusted that they work with females and clothe them.
Yeah. Also, at this point, we've suddenly, over the commercial break, moved 6 hours later. And up on the Enterprise, things are getting cold because they don't have the power for life support, but they are preserving the crucial room lighting. So, at least they can see their own deaths.
Right.
But it's 6 hours later, and they haven't sent down a shuttlecraft or done anything.
Right.
Also on the planet, which has lots of thunder and lightning that hurts the Ferengi ears. And then, yes, Dom, you're right. The Ferengi somehow are able to identify a clothed female human and distinguish it from men, even though it's even a clothed female human with a short haircut. So I'm not sure exactly how they're so quick to identify one. But yeah, they accuse us of working with women and arming them and forcing them to wear clothing.
Yes.
And so this is just Gene Roddenberry's personal stuff coming through again.
That's right.
Well, there's also a weird line when they're up on the ship where Picard's talking to Crusher, and she goes, "Well, I wanted to tranquilize Wesley." And Picard said, "Well, good, because he should be able to see his own death. A man should be able to see his own death or be awake for his own death."
Well, yeah, he says he has the right to meet death awake, and she says scornfully, "Is that a male perspective?" And he replies, "Rubbish." That's a weird exchange.
What's the androsogyny here?
It was very odd exchange.
Also, notice that even though they're freezing to death, neither one of their breath vapor is condensing.
Well, also, there's another here. They're obviously in a room that's on the outside of the ship, right? You see the windows outside.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the middle. The outside's the part that gets cold first. Heat more in the middle. Anyway.
I was going to say, even maybe get them down by the engines where there probably is going to be some residual heat.
Right, exactly. So when now the away teams, they start shooting at each other again, and this time their blasts are redirected away from them into the giant crystals all around them. Yeah. And a giant glowing head called Portal 63 appears and then resolves itself into
the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, well, it asks who meets the challenge and who's petitioning to enter the Empire, and it takes the form of a biped on a bridge and asks them the airspeed velocity of a sparrow, to which they respond African or European.
Actually, I have in my notes, Gandalf the Beardless appears.
That's right. You shall not pass. So it's a standard Guardian with a stick approach. And Data tries to convince the portal that the Takan Empire fell ages ago, and the Ferengi jump in and accuse the Enterprise of attacking them and trying to loot the Empire. So they're shiftless and untrustworthy. Enemy.
Yeah, there's a bit of logic here that actually approaches the clever. When Gandalf / the Wizard of Oz wants to know who challenges, Riker accepts the challenge, and he then lets himself get attacked and does not fight back. And then the portal quotes a line from Sun Tzu that we heard earlier in the episode about, like, the one who will live to fight another day is the one who knows when not to fight. And so clearly the portal has been, despite the fact he seems astonishingly ignorant of many things about human culture, was boning up on Sun Tzu when he hacked the Enterprise computers.
That's right. Yeah. Data and Riker admit to the claim from the Ferengi that they've withheld technology from some worlds and allowed some civilizations to fall and the strong and violent to overcome the weak, i.e. the Prime Directive, and don't defend themselves against this. And then Riker's challenge is apparently about quoting Sun Tzu, and this intrigues the portal, who wants to hear more and releases the Enterprise, offers to destroy the Ferengi, but Riker graciously allows them to live. And on the Enterprise, as everyone wakes up, Crusher calls Picard Jean, by the way, which I think is the only time he's ever actually called Jean in the whole series. He is Jean-Luc from this point on. And then, Riker asked the portal to spare. I wish they had the portal from the video game portal, which would have been a lot more interesting if you're familiar with it. the crazy AI in that. But anyway, they spare the Ferengi so they can learn from their experience. Meanwhile, the Ferengi are hopping around like spastic monkeys again.
We gave those words to this human.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're like the evil monkeys from Wizard of Oz. Anyway, Riker, on their way out, Riker beams over some Chinese finger puzzles as a gift for the Ferengi. Ha ha. Lame ending joke. We have to end on a joke. So any last notes about this episode from either of you? Jimmy?
Other than it was painful to watch.
Yeah.
I find it disturbing how the portal, based on Riker standing still, is now all of a sudden Riker's best bud. And is casually talking about, and he appears to have no knowledge of the Federation, despite the fact he hacked their computers and learned about Sun Tzu.
Right.
I mean, either he learned about it from the computers or he's telepathic, in which case he should know they're trustworthy up front. So there's just logic problems connected with the portal.
The only logic I can with that whole issue with the phrase from Sun Tzu is that it's supposedly a universal for all cultures at all times type of thing.
Well, then it's still bad writing, because it's an amazing
it's still
coincidence
bad writing,
that it became relevant without any kind of causal connection in this episode. Also, the portal saying, should I destroy them? About the Ferengi and Riker. Oh, then they would learn nothing. It's just so smug and preachy.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the portal goes back to sleep. But the thing this episode is really known for is the utter fail of the Ferengi on every level. They were they were supposed to be the new superior warrior race that we're going to have to deal with. They came across as totally unintimidating and laughably so. Gene Roddenberry also thought they were supposed to be like super sexy, and wow, are they not? And it's just an utter disaster. It's a tribute to and I also hate all of the rest of the TNG Ferengi episodes, just all of them. They're universally bad. It's not until we get to Deep Space Nine when they actually get redeemed, and it's a tribute to the creators of Deep Space Nine that they were able to take this wreck of a concept and breathe life into it and give it meaning and give us enjoyable Ferengi stories.
Right. That's true. I agree.
There is one point in this episode where they kind of hint at, being the new warrior race, where Picard is trying to offer surrender, and the Ferengi think that he's asking for their surrender, and they say something to the extent of, it would be a great dishonor for us to surrender.
Right.
And that's literally the only point where they make them sound like they're these great warriors with some sense of code of honor.
Totally lifted from the Klingon.
And there's an inherent conflict between this is the new warrior threat race, and they're a bunch of traitors.
Right.
It's like, no. You don't understand. People who do trade are not interested in destroying the people they want to trade with. I mean, okay, sure, you may have some imperialism or something going on, but they're not just killing machines. They want to make a deal. That's totally unexplored in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, they totally dropped the whole Yankee trader thing after this. We never see them as roving independent, smugglers or merchantmen. I mean, they're still capitalists, but we lose that idea of them as sort of romantic traders plying the spaceways.
And it's not until they stop treating them as they do in Next Gen that whenever they show up, they're a threat. I mean, whenever they're driving the plot, when they stop treating them as a threat and start treating them as businessmen, that's when they get interesting.
Yes,
exactly.
Totally. Yep. All right, Father Cory, any last notes on this?
Nope.
Okay, so let's take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Star Trek, including CM, Elaine K, Jesse K, Megan F, and Patrick W. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. We'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edits the show for us every week. So that's it from us. What do you think of The Last Outpost in the Ferengi and TNG? Do you have a better opinion of it than we did? Let us know. You can comment on the show at sqpn.com/trek or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com. We'll be back next time. We have a special episode, our 100th episode, and we're going to be discussing a book, a recent book called Picard, Last Best Hope. It came out as a prequel to the recent first season of Star Trek Picard, and we thought it was worth having a discussion on just the book. So if you haven't read it, we'll have a link in the show notes, and maybe get a chance to pick it up. It doesn't take too long to read. If you have read it, I hope you'll enjoy this discussion. Until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Star Trek.
Yeah, thanks, Dom.
Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest, and remember, your alien images again shock us.